I'm now going to continue my video series on Henry Ward Beecher and his sermons by addressing those who love God. In the book of Romans, St. Paul stated something that all of us should know. He said that we know that all things work together for good to them who love God. Let's first explore what you know. If you have been watching my videos consistently, you know how to count change. You know how to speed read. You know how to quickly and effectively memorize things. You know how to draw circles, triangles, squares, and many solids. You have a basic understanding of the Italian language. So you know things confidently. When you know things like this, your confidence shines. And most people notice this change in confidence. So what did these people know? Well, let's find out. Ready? They knew that no matter what happened, things would always work out for the best. Why did they know this? Well, they weren't bad people. Most people know that things usually don't work out for bad people. It might seem that way for a while, but in the end, it never does. God makes sure of that. And it wasn't for the fact that they were often considered good people. It had nothing to do with that at all. Ready for this? Sometimes things don't work out for the best for good people. The only reason these people knew that everything was going to work out for the best is because they loved God. Not all good people love God. That's why not everything works out for the best for good people. See what I mean? Some people are considered good people, but they don't love God, just like I said. That's why not everything works out for the best for them. How do Christians know that things are always going to work out for the best? Because God's will forces everything to work out for the best. This is not about our will. This is about God's will. God's will is perfect. That's the end of that. That's the end of the subject right there. And because God's will is perfect, everything's always going to work out for the best. See what I mean? It's God's power that creates the best outcome. It's God's omnipotence that creates the best situation. We're getting the picture now? All right. Things for Christians don't always work out right away. Sometimes Christians have to wait for a good outcome. Remember, it's up to God when things will finally work out for the best. And Christians should remember that things work out God's way, not our way, God's way. That means they may not work out the way we Christians want them to. Keep that in mind. Now then, when dealing with a situation, many Christians become impatient. Why is that? Well, hang in there. That's why they don't see God's will working in their lives right away. We live in an instant society. Think about that. We eat food that we grab from the microwave. Haven't you ever stood in front of a microwave and been very impatient because of that? See what I mean? We get instant information and entertainment from the internet. Our automobiles take us to places in near record time. Unless, of course, you find yourself in a traffic jam, and that's a totally different subject. But Christians must first learn to wait upon God. It's His will, not our will. This lesson is also about endurance. Even small children can behave properly for a short period of time if they know that they will gain a quick reward. How many people endure many hardships when climbing a mountain so they can see the view from the top? Think of the things people deprive themselves of in order to get a promotion at work, or some other reward at work. Maybe Employee of the Month. They'll deprive themselves of all kinds of things to get Employee of the Month. See what I mean? However, God often asks Christians to endure great hardships to gain His eternal rewards. You mean I have to wait till eternity to get them? That's kind of hard, don't you think? Well, it could be, unless you were trained on how to do that. We'll get into that later. Think about what Jesus' disciples had to endure to gain His rewards. St. Paul endured many hardships. He was in a Roman jail for several years. but yet he wrote the letters that God wanted him to write. And because of that, virtually everyone on the face of the earth has read the letters that Paul wrote. Because Paul was willing to sit in that Roman jail and write those letters the way God wanted them written, God made sure that everybody, well, virtually everybody on the face of this earth has read those letters. Getting the picture? Okay. Now, some people look and act like heroes, but if you place them inside an adverse situation, you will see how heroic they really are. Some people, when they see two people engaged in a fist fight, will try to end the conflict. Other people will remove their smartphones from their pockets and notify the authorities. But there are some people who will just stand idly by and watch. And if you ask them to testify in court about what they had just witnessed, they will hide in the deepest, darkest corner of the world. A hero does what is fair and true regardless of the consequences. Real heroes don't let their friends drive while intoxicated. They don't stand idly by while their friends shoplift. They just don't do that. See what I mean? Now then, how many people witness animal abuse and say nothing? A real hero doesn't mind being inconvenienced. Real heroes don't succumb to peer pressure. Real people are not lemmings. That's just the way they are. People often have a bad definition of hope. They define hope as follows. Let's say they are on a ship and suddenly it starts to sink. They suddenly see a rescue boat. They have total confidence that they will be rescued. Well, that isn't hope. Okay? Now you're standing there on a boat that's sinking and you see the rescue ship. You're like, well, hey, this thing's going to rescue. What kind of hope is that? You think that was the same thing as what was on the Titanic? Let me give you the difference on that one. Okay? So what is real hope? Think about those who were on the Titanic. Think about they were on the lifeboats. The Titanic was sunk. There was not another ship in sight for several hours. At least that's what the accounts say. Anyway, the thing is, they maintained their hope as they looked around the endless nighttime sky. They never lost hope, even though they saw no ships to rescue them. They never lost hope. That's the true definition of hope. See what I mean? In our modern world, we have become very intolerant to pain. If some people get a paper cut, they rush to the medicine cabinet. They grab every bandage and antiseptic cream they can find. And they also seek out the strongest painkillers they can swallow. Imagine what would happen to them if they sprained their ankle or they developed a chronic back illness. Hope is not knowing that a doctor can cure your ailment. Hope is trusting God to cure your ailment when no doctor on planet Earth can find a cure. That's hope. Okay. Hope is what Paul the Apostle held on to while he was imprisoned by the Roman government. Hope is what some business owners keep when they see their businesses facing financial ruin. Hope is something that employees cling to as they watch their employers permanently lock the doors of their workplaces. Hope is when some impoverished young adults cling to when they watch their rich friends marry their life partners. Okay? Because that's when they're sitting there going, well, I'm going to hold on to the hope that I'm going to find somebody someday because my rich friend just got married to somebody else. See what I mean? Remember, just because honesty isn't honored by some men and women, God will always honor it. Just because integrity isn't honored by some men and women, God will always honor it. Think about that for a moment. The Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptians for 400 years, but the descendants of the Israelite slaves inherited what their forefathers worked for. God saw to this personally. If God will do this for them, He will do the same thing for you. And St. Paul is a living testament to this. People talk about St. Paul to this very day. I wonder if Paul realized that when he was sitting in that Roman prison. Okay. Why does God allow us to endure tribulation? Well, one of the reasons is that He wants us to learn patience. How else are you going to learn patience if you don't face a situation where you're going to have to learn patience? Okay? Oh, you can read about it in a textbook. To actually experience it is a totally different thing. Remember, we are not born with patience. Check out any kid that wants an instant meal. You'll figure that out for yourself. We acquire this attribute through experience. Think of it this way. Were you ever taught by some member of your family how to use a hammer to place a nail into a piece of wood? Did you use the hammer successfully on the first try? Or did you smash your thumb instead? Most people smash their thumbs several times before they finally learned how to use a hammer properly. God uses the same technique to teach patience to those He loves. That's a fact. When some people see Christians, they think that God's goodness didn't work in their lives because the Christians still live in squalor. But look at their lives a little more carefully. Are they rich with knowledge? Are they financially stable? Are they rich with good friendships and fellowship? Are they rich with godly peace? Think about these things before you decide that God's goodness hasn't worked in their lives. Think about this for a moment. If a Christian faces adversity without fear or resentment, then God's goodness has truly worked in their lives. If that Christian faces his adversity and yet doesn't lose his love for God or for his fellow man, God has successfully worked His goodness in that Christian. And if you want proof of this, read the book of Job. There's your proof. No matter how much adversity poured upon Job, he still held on to his faith in God. And that's all you need to know. Alright. I know I stuttered a little bit in this presentation. I hope you didn't mind. But anyway, I want to thank you very much for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.